Hi everyone, doing a teaching on neroli. Neroli is part of the orange family, and it's an oil that is distilled from the flowers of the orange tree. Very simply, it can be used as a perfume. So people who have made the switch from fragranced perfumes to more natural options using essential oils, you can apply it to all of the points where you would naturally apply a perfume. Physically, the oil has many uses. I will simply go over them very briefly for two reasons. Number one, because the focus of this teaching will be primarily on emotions and energetics using this oil. Number two, for compliance reasons, I can't go into all of the details, but I can direct you to a resource where you can find all of that information. So this resource is what I'm using today. It's called The Essential Life, and it's available online. You can just type in the book. It's available as an app. It's also available as a reference. And neroli can be used to support digestion. It can be used for skin. It's really, really beautiful for skin in many applications. Either to maintain beautiful skin and also to address certain skin issues. And it's also very beneficial used in terms of emotional balance. So psychologically, it has a very calming effect on the body, and it has the ability to balance both the mind and body. So if you're interested in the physical benefits, then I would urge you to look at one of the resources that you already have, or if you are in the market for purchasing a resource, this one's a really good one. And there's an entire page dedicated to each oil. This one here is neroli, and then there's a whole list of uses that you can use the oil for. What I'm going to move into now are energetics and emotions, and the information that I will be giving you is information that I have learned through a woman named Tiffany Carroll. She is one of my teachers. I'm taking a course with her. She is an acupuncturist, a biochemist, and she has been using the oils for close to 30 years within her clinical practice. And she uses them along with acupuncture points to activate points on the body. So the way an acupuncturist would use needles to activate certain points on the body, she uses essential oils to do the same thing. And she uses them clinically to support families, adults, children with a variety of both physical and emotional issues. And when it comes to neroli, what she teaches is that neroli is really, really beneficial for, let's start with children, for those children who are prone to nervous anxiety, those children who are prone to irritability, those children who have a difficult time balancing their emotional reactions. So their emotional reactions are usually rooted in the fact that they are empathic. So they have a tendency to feel people's emotions or to feel into a situation much more profoundly than other children. And as a result, they take on the emotions of the situation within their body. And so neroli has the ability to help those children process those emotions. And it's also very beneficial for children and for people who have a tendency to overcompensate. So what I mean by that is for people and children who find themselves in a situation and they try to make everything better within that situation. So they take on more than they need to in an effort to overcompensate for the imbalances within a situation that they find themselves in. And so in that case, Neroli is very useful for helping the body to release the emotions that are often held in by someone who is who has a tendency to overcompensate. So neroli as an oil is known as an oil that you would go to if you want to really kind of land in your body. Where you need that sense of embodiment, you need that sense of connection between mind and body. And it's an oil that is able to allow you to access a more resourced state by allowing some of the emotional anxiety and irritability and instability to balance itself out. When you are using an oil emotionally and energetically, the oil can only have as much impact on you as you are open to. So when you are using an oil emotionally and energetically to support specific things, you're doing so with the understanding that the oil is the tool, but obviously you are addressing the underlying issue. So the oil helps at times to release stuck emotions in the body. It helps certain things to come up, things that have been held in the cells. There's been a lot of work. There's a book written called The Body Keeps the Score. And there's been a lot of work recently that's come out about the fact that trauma, emotions, things that happen to us in our lives, unless we consciously address them, remain held in the body. And over time, those things, if they are not dealt with and released, can cause physical dis-ease to manifest within the body. And so neroli is really, really effective for people who find themselves in times of transition or loss or big changes in their lives, and who, as a result of trying to deal with that, have a tendency to disassociate from the way they're feeling. So this often happens during times of grief, periods of grief. The grief is so large that people have a hard time tapping into it. And so what they do is they bury it and they move into more of a headspace of doing. But what ends up happening is that in that process, that nervous tension, those emotions cause a lot of anxiety and stress to begin forming in the body because you're not dealing with the root cause. And so people who are dealing with transitions and loss have a tendency to kind of disconnect. And what neroli has the ability to do is to draw you back in. So as you are using it aromatically, or you are using it topically, I'm going to give you some points for using it topically for very specific situations. The oil is sometimes working with specific points on the body, known acupressure points or known chakra points that have been studied and documented as having connections to particular organs in the body. Sometimes it's a matter of bringing you back to the now moment versus like being in your head and being so overcome and overwhelmed by the entire situation. The other thing that neroli can do is that it can stop those repetitive loops that we have a tendency to get ourselves into. Particularly the Tiffany Carroll talks about the guilt-shame loop. So when thinking about a particular situation, a relationship, maybe the way you're showing up in one particular area of your life, and if there is a lot of guilt associated with that, Sometimes we get stuck in an emotional loop. So this is very common with mothers. We all know the term mother guilt. Sometimes mother guilt can turn into mother shame. So the idea that mothers maybe are not happy with the way they show up in particular situations, and rather than giving themselves the compassion and the space and the grace to acknowledge that they're doing the best that they can, they end up in this spiral where they never feel like they're showing up well enough for their family, for themselves. They feel guilty, then they feel shameful for the decisions they make, the actions they make. And it's this running loop that informs the relationship that they have with their kids. It's always playing in the back of their mind. Things that they should have done, wish they could have done differently. If I had done this differently, then fill in the blank. If I had said this differently, then fill in the blank. And over time, that can create this loop that just keeps going in your body. And so Neroli has the ability, if you are aware that this is you, when you actually have this work to do to kind of tease out, where do I need to forgive myself? What have I done? What was the situation that caused me to show up in this way? How can I show myself the compassion and the grace that I need? Neroli is a really beautiful oil to use, a beautiful tool to use when you are doing that work. Okay, so the places where you would place Neroli, if you were dealing with your own personal traumas and your own personal healing, you can place it right here. This connects you to the heart point. Okay, this is an acupressure point that connects to your heart point. It's kind of in between. It's at the bottom of your pinky, and it's in between. There's like a little cavity there where you would put Neroli. You can place it right in the middle of your chest, central vessel 17, which is right here. This connects to your heart chakra, to your heart. A lot of guilt and shame and sadness is held in this part of the body. If you are dealing with a child and you are wanting to use Neroli to help support some of the overcompensation, an empathic child, a child who is struggling in the world, is having trouble, dealing with things in their world, then you would take this. You could do a spinal application up and down the back. You could do it every night. It's a really beautiful way to support the central nervous system, to encourage emotional balance in the body. And so it's a really nice thing to do. You keep this on a bedside table and you can roll it up and down the back just before the child goes to sleep. This is really beautiful to also support any child that goes through any kind of sleep issues or night terrors or irritability in the middle of the night as a result of maybe certain dreams they might be having. So Neroli would be your go-to for that. And then in terms of digestion, I talked about how physically Neroli supports digestion. A lot of times people who have issues with digestion also have an emotional link that is impacting their gut health. Typically people who are more empathic, are more sensitive, have a tendency to try to overcompensate, are therefore, as a result, more anxious, more stressed, more irritable, find that they have a lot of stomach problems, a lot of stomach issues. And so in that case, you would want to take Neroli and you would roll it directly over the solar plexus. And the solar plexus can be found if you locate your belly button and then you try and find the bottom of your rib cage. The solar plexus is in between your belly button and the bottom of your rib cage. right in the middle. And so you would take Neroli and you would place it directly on that point. If you knew you were dealing with a child who needed that kind of support, or if you yourself are someone who has a tendency to take on a lot of other people's stuff and then don't have a method to release that from your body, and instead you hold it for other people. Neroli would be a really beautiful oil to help you kind of find more of that balance. So what happens when you start working with the oils emotionally and energetically, and you are very intentional about why you are using a particular oil, and you are using it consistently over time, you will come into contact or be made aware of things that arise either through memories, emotions, feelings that need to be released from the body. And so in that case, you are feeling and experiencing those things with an understanding that in using the oil has helped you access something that has been held within your body for a long period of time. So when I began working with the oils emotionally and energetically, sometimes I would remember something that I had totally forgotten, and it would come up for me, and then it came up for me to deal with. So the oils allow that unfolding, and they allow it to happen at many levels. First physically, and then emotionally and energetically. And so those of you that are doing that work, those of you that find yourselves in some of the situations that I described, reach for Neroli. It's really, really supportive as a tool to help you work through some of those things. Have a wonderful day.